Have you ever looked at your partner across the dinner table and felt like there was a 1,000-mile canyon between you, even though you're only 3 feet apart? It's that strange, hollow feeling where the person you love feels like a stranger, and every little thing they do, the way they chew, the way they leave their shoes out, suddenly feels like a personal attack. We usually call this growing apart or losing the spark. But what if the real culprit isn't a lack of love, but a hijacked nervous system? Today, we're diving into the hidden biology of connection and why modern stress might be the silent homewrecker we never saw coming.
It's a fascinating and honestly quite urgent topic because we've spent decades looking at relationship problems through a purely psychological lens. We talk about communication styles, childhood trauma, or love languages. But we often ignore the fact that the brain is a biological organ sitting in a soup of hormones. If that soup is toxic, no amount of active listening is going to save the evening. We are currently living through a massive biological experiment where our ancient nervous systems are being bombarded by 21st century stimuli, and our relationships are the collateral damage.
That's a heavy thought, that we're essentially biologically incompatible with the modern world. When you say the soup is toxic, I assume you're talking about the big one, cortisol. We hear that word all the time in the context of weight gain or work burnout. But how does a stress hormone actually get between two people who care about each other?
Think of cortisol as the body's emergency broadcast system. In the wild, if a predator was chasing you, cortisol would spike to sharpen your senses, dump glucose into your bloodstream for energy, and shut down anything non-essential for immediate survival. The problem is that your brain can't distinguish between a saber-toothed tiger and a passive-aggressive email from your boss at 9 p.m. When your cortisol is chronically high, your body stays in survival mode. And here's the kicker. In survival mode, the brain deprioritizes social bonding, empathy, and patience. You're not looking for a hug. You're looking for a threat.
So when I come home after a long day of micro-threats at the office, I'm literally physically incapable of being the warm, supportive partner I want to be? My brain has basically turned off the connection switch to keep the survival switch on?
Exactly. You're operating from the amygdala, the fear center, rather than the prefrontal cortex, which is where empathy and complex reasoning live. This is why you might snap at your partner for something trivial. It's not about the dishes in the sink. It's that your nervous system is so red-lined that the dishes feel like one more threat to your survival. You're effectively a high-performance engine running with no oil. Eventually, things are going to seize up.
And that seizing up often starts with sleep, doesn't it? It feels like a vicious cycle. You're stressed, so you don't sleep. You don't sleep, so you're more stressed. But how does that lack of shut-eye specifically erode the emotional glue of a couple?
Sleep is the ultimate emotional regulator. When we're sleep deprived, the connection between our emotional brain and our rational brain becomes frayed. Research shows that after just 1 or 2 nights of poor sleep, we become significantly worse at reading our partner's facial expressions. We start interpreting neutral faces as hostile. So, your partner might just be tired and looking blankly at the TV, but your sleep-deprived brain interprets that as they're angry at me or they don't care. It creates conflict out of thin air.
That explains so much. It's like we're both wearing grumpiness goggles that distort everything the other person does. And it's not just the mood, right? There's a deeper physical toll. I've read that chronic stress actually changes where we store fat and how we feel about our own bodies, which has to play into the intimacy side of things.
Absolutely. This is where the biology gets really cruel. High cortisol levels are directly linked to the accumulation of visceral fat, the stress belly. At the same time, chronic stress tanks your testosterone and disrupts your estrogen balance. Biologically speaking, if your body thinks it's in a famine or a war zone, which is what chronic stress signals, the last thing it wants to do is expend energy on reproduction or intimacy. It shuts down the libido to save calories for survival.
It's a double whammy. You don't feel good in your own skin because of the metabolic shifts, and your brain is telling you that intimacy is a luxury you can't afford right now. It's easy to see how couples end up in that roommate phase, where the physical connection just evaporates. They think they've lost the spark, But really, their hormones are just in a defensive crouch.
And then we try to relax by scrolling through our phones side by side on the couch. We think we're unwinding, but we're actually contributing to what I call the attention crisis. Real human connection requires presence, eye contact, shared rhythm, what biologists call neural coupling. But when we're constantly checking notifications, our attention is fragmented. We're giving our partners the scraps of our cognitive energy. The nervous system can tell the difference between someone who is there and someone who is just present.
It's like trying to have a conversation through a static-filled radio. You get the gist, but the soul of the message is lost. I wonder, though, about the long-term internal cost. We've talked about hormones and sleep, but what about the actual physical health of the brain? Does this chronic relationship stress lead to something more permanent, like inflammation?
It does. Chronic stress is pro-inflammatory. It sends signals to the immune system that something is wrong. This systemic inflammation can lead to brain fog and a loss of emotional granularity, the ability to feel a wide range of nuanced emotions. You end up feeling emotionally flat or numb. When you're in that state, it's very hard to feel in love or even excited. You're just existing. And many people blame their partner for that numbness, when it's actually a biological response to an overloaded life.
That's a sobering realization. We're walking around blaming our hearts for things our hormones are doing. So, if someone is listening to this and recognizing themselves or their relationship in this biological burnout, where do they even start? Do we all just need to quit our jobs and move to a cabin in the woods?
As tempting as that sounds, the real solution is about nervous system management. We have to stop treating self-care as a luxury and start seeing it as relationship maintenance. If you want to be a better partner, the most romantic thing you can do might be to go to bed an hour earlier or take a 10-minute walk without your phone. We need to create islands of safety for our nervous systems. When the body feels safe, the social engagement system turns back on. Empathy returns. Libido returns. The spark isn't something you find. It's something you allow to happen by removing the biological inhibitors.
I love that. The idea that the most romantic gift is a regulated nervous system. It shifts the burden away from fixing the other person and toward healing the environment we share. It makes me think about the future of wellness. We're seeing all these wearables now that track heart rate variability and sleep stages. Do you think we're heading toward a time where we'll get a notification saying, "Your cortisol is too high to have a serious conversation tonight. Go take a bath instead"?
Honestly, we're already there. People are using HRV heart rate variability as a proxy for their stress tolerance. If your HRV is low, your battery is drained, and you're likely to be reactive. Imagine if couples shared that data. Instead of taking a partner's irritability personally, you could see on a dashboard that their nervous system is just overwhelmed. It adds a layer of objective compassion. We can stop saying, "Why are you being like this?" and start saying, "I see your system is under a lot of strain. How can we bring you back to baseline?"
It turns you versus me into us versus the stress. That feels like a much more winnable game. But it also requires us to be incredibly honest about the modern things we've normalized. The 24/7 connectivity, the hustle culture, the constant stimulation. We've normalized a state of being that is fundamentally anti-connection.
Precisely. We've traded deep, slow-burning intimacy for fast-paced, high dopamine stimulation. But dopamine is a lonely chemical. It's about more, not enough. Connection is built on oxytocin and serotonin, the chemicals of here and now. To get back to those, we have to be willing to slow down, which is almost a countercultural act these days.
It's a radical act of rebellion to just sit and be still with someone. As we wrap this up, I'm struck by the idea that our bodies are essentially historical archives of how we live. Our stress, our lack of sleep, our diet, it all shows up in how we love. It's a powerful reminder that we aren't just minds floating in space. We are biological beings who need safety and rest to thrive.
It really comes down to one truth. The nervous system cannot connect when it feels threatened. Whether that threat is a deadline, a loud city, or a lack of sleep, the result is the same: isolation. If we want deeper relationships, we have to prioritize biological recovery. We have to protect our sleep like our love life depends on it, because it actually does.
That's a perfect place to leave it. A challenge to everyone listening. Tonight, don't try to talk out your problems if you're exhausted. Don't scroll through your phone while your partner is talking. Just focus on making the environment safe. Give the cortisol a chance to drop and the oxytocin a chance to rise. You might find that the spark never actually left. It was just buried under the weight of a world that doesn't know how to turn off.
Well said. It's about coming home to ourselves so we can truly come home to each other.
Thank you for this deep dive. It's certainly changed how I'll look at my own irritable moments this week. And to our listeners, remember, your relationship isn't just a psychological bond, it's a biological one. Treat your body with the same kindness you want to show your partner, and the connection will often follow. Protect your sleep, guard your attention, and we'll see you in the next episode.